All right, welcome back to the Justin Thurber Show. I'm your host, Justin Thurber, and as always, my co-host extraordinaire, Jim. How you doing, Jim?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
And it's been a long time. I've been really missing doing this because so much has happened since the last time we had a show. And one of the biggest things is something we've talked about a lot on this show, and that's the immigration. I know it's affecting you up in your area. Anything you want to let us know?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I remember some of the first articles coming from like 2014 when Lynn had an influx of illegal immigration come up there, and it was just straining the cities. And obviously, I used to live in Somerville, and it's had an impact there. But now you see it coming almost to pretty much every single town near you. It's like the coming to a theater near you, coming to a town near you. And yeah, I mean, we've definitely had an influx. My town that I live in actually doesn't have hotels, so not my town specifically, but pretty much every single town that neighbors us. So if you look at Shrewsbury, Westboro, Sutton, Mass, and actually Sutton, Mass, had a Red Roof Inn, which I actually, once I heard the story that the state would be housing, uh, some of those people there, I went in just to check to see what it was like. And I mean, what I saw was horrifying. I mean, you had a
Yeah.
hotel. I mean, it wasn't up to code. They couldn't even rent it out to regular people because it was just so run down of a hotel. And I mean, you're talking about like construction projects going on, like construction equipment
Oh
everywhere.
yeah.
They
I
had
saw the
like,
pictures outside. Yeah.
yeah, it was a complete mess. And this is where the state decided it was a great idea to put migrants. And I mean, it was really actually sad to see because there was like kids walking around in the hotels, and they're like little kids, and this is not really a great environment for them to be in. I mean, in some stories they were putting families of five in a one bedroom room. So I mean, it's like obviously that's not a great situation to have one bed for a family of five. So a lot of these people are not getting great treatment from the state.
Yeah. So in our town of Somerset, we have a young lady named Jessica Machado, and she's actually pretty politically active. There's people on both sides that either like her or don't like her. But, when there's something that affects her personally, she makes her voice well known. And a couple weeks ago, maybe about a month ago, she went to a selectman meeting in town and said, "Hey, what's going to happen if we have any of these hotels in our town have migrants come in?" And they sat there, they beat their chest. We're card carrying Democrats, and we love this, and we're for everybody. And then, a couple weeks later, we had them in a hotel, and she went back and it was like, "Hey, now that they're here and we didn't plan, like I was asking what the plan was, what's the plan now?" And there still is no plan. So she'd put together a standout event, and she called me up because I'm politically active as well. And she's like, "Hey, do you want to come to the standout?" And I said, "Sure." And I was just gonna go and maybe hold a sign, but I didn't have a sign. I was gonna probably make something blaming the politicians, telling them to do something. But then I thought, let me go there and talk to the people, because one of the things I noticed is it blew up a little bit on Facebook, as she posted this information. And what you had is you had people saying like they shouldn't be here, we're wasting all this money, we're spending too much money, and then all these other people, compassion, and you guys are just evil, and we should help everybody. And I think what happens is both sides understand the other side's argument, and they believe there's value to it, but at the same point in time they want to really make sure the other side understands what they're talking about. And while they're bickering back and forth, they're forgetting who the main culprit and the main reason why this is happening, and it's our politicians that are using this situation for political gain. So what I decided to do is I decided to go there, I decided to talk to the people, ask them why they're there, and then say, "Hey, listen, do you have problems with the immigrants, or do you have problems with the policy?" So I'll play that video right now, then we can discuss it. What led you to come out here today?
I'm just a big supporter of what we need to do for us as Americans, like my American dream. You know what I mean? Like what I want to get, what I want to see, not only for myself but my little ones. They need to have the opportunity to be as prosperous as I was.
Well, I've been watching this crisis unfold for years, especially since Biden took office. It really seems to have escalated. And I see it happening in communities all across the country. And now it's come here, and I just know it's not going to stop. this isn't going to be the end of it. There are going to be more coming in, more hotels to be filled, and we just cannot absorb this amount of people.
It's going to be happening all over.
You hear people honk, and then you hear some people yelling and swearing at us. I think our message might be screwed up. I think they think we don't like those people. I don't want to speak for you, but it's more of our politicians' policies that we'd like to see them fix, so we don't have to deal with these issues. Is that your feeling?
Just continuous lying is what they're doing to us. Sneaking these people in the middle of the night, not telling anyone, and then they tell you the border's closed.
Yep.
And where's the money going? All the money they're spending. Then you got people who live in the state, in these towns, who have nowhere to go.
They believe that we don't care about people and that we're here saying those people are bad and they should go. I don't believe that most people standing out here believe that. I think it's just failed policies that we'd like to see fixed.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, without borders, we don't have a country. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the
bad
politicians. I love immigrants. You know, there's many immigrants here. I have no problem with immigration.
I think that all they keep saying is we have to fix our broken immigration system. The simple way to do that is to close the border, and no one seems to want to do that, not even the Republicans, the do-nothing Republicans. It's very disappointing. No one is standing up for us, so it's up to people to speak out. And there have been some communities where they've been successful, but mostly those communities are places like Martha's Vineyard,
Yes.
where Obama has his home. So regular middle-class people who worked all their lives to own a house, to have a little piece of the American dream, are now being forced out of these communities that they lived in. They're being forced to choose between different, medicine and food. The elderly people, regular middle class people have to take 2 jobs to get by. And then they put this extra burden on us, and they don't feel it. They don't feel the burden at all.
We have our own problems in the community. You know how many homeless people are outside begging for money?
Yep.
And they were born here.
I'd have housing. I'm going to be looking for a place soon.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? There's a lot of people out there, veterans, so, we don't have any control.
I think that when it comes right down to it and they start putting people into the community and people's taxes go up, I don't want to hear anybody who isn't protesting this come to me and say, oh, it's so hard to get by nowadays. I can't, I can't do anything with my family. I can't go out to eat. I can't, if I can't afford it. It's tough to make decisions about food and medicine. And can I go to the doctor? I don't know.
We want to say it to our state representative. You can make a law. You can get with the governor, you can get with the other state representatives, maybe change this law because we're a right to shelter state. We could change some of those policies
Change
really
that.
quick.
Yeah.
But here's the deal, is you go talk to these representatives that you elect, and they have no concept of how to do anything. So, like I said, to me, that's one of the bigger problems, because you as a person wants...
It's the elected officials. You know what? I'm not voting for any Democrat. They all gotta go. They're useless.
We the people have no control over our budget,
Yes.
our tax money, our towns, our utilities, our schools. They've taken all that away from us.
Well, all right, so I'm going to pause really quick, let people digest some of the things. And like I said, when we talk past each other as citizens, as neighbors, because we want the other person to understand, I think when you ask the right questions, people start figuring it out. And when I was asking the questions, well, whose fault is it? You could see them starting to say, well, wait, it's their policies. Wait, it's their lies. And the biggest takeaway is how we feel powerless. A couple of people mentioned, like, you feel powerless. You can't do anything. You go to your board of selectmen, they can't help you. You go to your state representative, I don't know what to do. The governor sits there at the top, of this whole thing, and she's like, well, I don't have any plans to change anything. And she's like, well, at least she admitted, like, I can't because I'm not a lawmaker. That's the lawmaker's job. But as the elected official, the chief elected official in a Democrat state, I am sure if she said, listen, clowns, come in for a special vote and vote to fix this. But there's no appetite to. And I think one of the biggest things you see in these people is the frustration, and you see the forward thinking these people have. They're sitting there saying, what's going to happen if we keep doing this without fixing it? If our politicians, because if they gave you, Jimmy, you or I, like, the power to fix things, I think we could come up with some good ideas to do things, right? Like to make it cheaper or to make it better or to have facilities or whatever. But that's not what they want to do. And you have a lot of frustration. What do you think?
No, yeah, I think you're hitting the nail on the head, and I like the perspective that you brought out. Is it's really the elected officials is where this problem lies, and like, you brought up a good point. Like, you know, I have more in common with the average voter on the Democrat side because we can put our heads together and we can find a solution that we would say, hey, let's enact this, and this would be a common ground for everyone, and we could come up with a solution, very quickly. Whereas you have a political class that are making these problems, and it doesn't matter what party they are. I mean, it's like I almost have more in common with the typical, voter on the left that in like trying to come up with a solution to this problem than I do with elected Republicans in this state. And
Yes.
to me, that's a big problem. It's like I think someone had mentioned it in that article. It's like the do nothing Republicans. And as
Yeah.
much as I want to point this on Democrats because they are the majority, and this does heavily fall on their end, there's definitely a lot that Republicans could be doing as well. And it seems like the actions that they have taken there. I think there was a bill introduced to
Yep.
end the
Right to
emergency
shelter.
shelter, yeah, the right to
Yep.
shelter law. But to me, it comes across as like a photo op. It's like, oh, we did this just to say we're doing something, but then what happens next? You don't see anybody fighting for it. You don't see
Nope.
anybody pushing it. You don't see anyone saying, hey, this is what's holding up the process. So to me, I'm like, where are the Republicans in this too? So I think it really highlights the divide. It's not, a left versus right issue. It's us versus the political class issue.
Correct. It's funny that guy that said vote every Democrats out. I had to cut the part out that I said, and I can prove it to you people. I have the video because I interviewed a bunch of people for brevity. I had to take a lot of things out, but I also said, well, how about we also vote out the Republicans that aren't doing anything? And I hate to say that as a conservative, as a person that wants it, but what's the point? If you're elected to do something, do something. And I think that's where people are getting frustration. The other thing too I want to mention before I start the video again is there was a lot of beeps. There was a lot of people beeping, waving, thumbs up, all the other stuff. And you'll hear someone mention later about how a lot of people can't go out and do these things because whether they fear they're going to lose their job or friendships and stuff. So that's why some of those people went out there. But we had a couple people, as I said in the video, swearing at us or whatever. That's fine. Let's have the talk. I don't care if you swear. Like I said, this is a big topic. This is like an adult discussion we should have. We should all be adults and look for solutions. But let me finish playing this. There's like a minute and a half left, and we'll wrap this one up. Well, one thing I was watching our selective meeting the other day, and we were asking residents were asking questions, and like you said, there was no answers. So then what happens is the residents feel powerless, the selectmen feel powerless, and you're like, how can we do anything?
I hope more people or in other cities will do this. If we all got together and something could be done to change this
Yes.
problem.
We just want results. We elect people for results, and we want results. Well, let me tell you one thing. On my show, I keep telling people do something because
That's
that's
what I did. I got to do something. I have friends. Oh, what are we going to do? Watch what I do.
yes.
So
It doesn't have to be this. Like I tell people, you can support somebody financially, go to a standout, even just call them up and say, I like what you're doing. Yeah.
Got to get people on the school boards.
The amount of people who have been honking their horns, that we have a lot of support, and some of these people are afraid to speak out. They don't want to, get in trouble, lose their jobs, be ostracized. So we have to do it for them. We have to be the ones who stand out here and put our
Yep.
necks on the line.
We go to different standouts. We go and hold signs and flags, and we got to get the numbers out there. Let people know there's more conservatives out there than what they try to tell us on the news.
So I think this is great. I wish more people would do this in other cities across the state. Enough is enough.
There you go. Enough is enough. And again, I think it's a good encapsulation. Like, I think people are realizing that if your politicians are doing nothing, you have to do something, or you have to force their hand. And a lot of people call them illegal immigrants or immigrants. I think I told you I want to change the name, to political pawns, because that's what these people are being used for. They're being used for political pawns. Politicians are using our money to divide the people up along, I don't know, whether class lines, social economic lines, or whatever, just sit there and say, if you believe this about these certain people, you're a bad person, and if you're on the other side, you're like, no, you're not a bad person. You just believe in the numbers or the math, or you just it's they use us against each other, and that really has to stop.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and these are real issues that people are facing. I can't tell you when I was on the campaign trail last year, we'd go door knocking, and then there'd be a mom with like her 26 or 27-year old kid living in the home, and she's like, you know, when is this market going to change? When is this economy going to change? Because I can barely make it myself. Like, never
Yep.
mind my kid trying to enter the world with housing prices and like cost of living where they are. I mean, it's just there's no help for a lot of these people, and
Yeah.
it's like when you see something so screwed up happening across the economy, and then you look at what the state is doing, it's like instead of trying to fix these solutions, they're creating more problems and adding more problems, and it's like they're almost intentionally trying to pit people against each other.
Yeah.
It's just it goes to show it's like they don't want the spotlight shown on them. It's like they every single opportunity they try to create another distraction to get people to go after each other as opposed to shine the spotlight on themselves.
It's funny. I was talking to a friend, and I'm like, politicians don't want to solve a lot of problems because problems is where they draw their party lines. So what they're doing is all these things could be resolved, could be solved until it gets too politically unfavorable for them, and then when that happens and they feel like they're going to lose power, then they'll shift. But it's all about power now. It's not about people. It's not about taking care of the people, representing the people. It's about the party and power. So the next thing I did, this was a big feat, is I went and found the video from the state of emergency that Maura Healey instituted for this immigration debacle on August 8th. And it was a pretty long video. I did some editing. I actually moved some stuff around just to make it, for full transparency, just to make things a little bit smoother, or just to show some things that really stuck out to me. So please don't be like, you edited that for stuff. Like, most of it plays through, but some of it was moved around. And I think if you have any clue about anything, you could easily see where it was or whatever. So I just want to be transparent about that. But it was a long, long conference they had with a bunch of people. I only focused on the governor and lieutenant governor and one other person. And I really, when we go through this, Jim, we talk about it, like some of the things these people say, like people call them leaders, like they're elected leaders. We shouldn't call them leaders. They're not leaders. Um, Supervisors, maybe. I wouldn't trust them leading me out of a wet paper bag, and that goes for a lot of politicians. And I don't know if it's a lack of creativity, a lack of common sense, or if there's some guidelines from above that they have to follow because, hey, listen, here's the plan. This is what we're going to do. And even though you want to fix things, don't fix things. Because if you fix things, then what are we going to run on? I don't know. Run on that you fixed things. Right. So let's play the video. And then, like, there's about 10 video clips I cut in, and we'll discuss each one.